Hello, elementary school students across America and on United States military bases around the world. This is Michael T. Mondak Reads. I am the eponymous Michael T. Mondak. I'm back with you on a Thursday reading one picture book virtually to you, your parents, and your teachers. But I can't do it without a preview as to what I'll be reading. Here it is for this Thursday. When you work in groups, on a similar project, it's best that you have a leader and you delegate different tasks to your teammates. But what happens when there's no cooperation with each other? You try to do the same things at one time and it turns into a disaster. Fozzie, Kermit, and Piggy had to learn a lot about cooperation from Fozzie's dad. And part of a storyline by Richard Shavat and illustrated by Joe Ewers titled The Wonderful Wagon. It's a book about cooperation. And pay attention. I'll be asking you some questions about cooperation at the end. Let's get started. One day, Piggy and Kermit went to Fozzie's house and found him in the backyard by a pile of wood. "My dad doesn't need this old lumber," Fozzie told his friends, "or these wheels. He said we could use them to build a wagon." "A wagon," said Kermit. "Great. Our very own homemade wagon," Piggy said. "And I know just the kind of wagon we should build." "It should have big tail fins," Piggy exclaimed as she picked up a piece of wood. "It should be really long," said Kermit, grabbing a hammer and some nails. "Well, I think it should have 4 seats on it," said Fozzie as he lined up the wheels. The 3 of them began to work, but soon they started to argue. "Hey," Fozzie said to Kermit angrily, "you can't put the wheels there. That's where the handle goes." No," interrupted Piggy. "The handle goes on that side. This is where I'm painting my special wagon design." As they worked, things got worse. Piggy and Kermit both wanted to use the screwdriver at the same time. Fozzie didn't like the way Piggy was building the sides. "This wagon's a mess," said Kermit after a while. "It's not my fault," Piggy snapped. "You wouldn't listen to me." "If you guys hadn't argued so much," Fozzie said, shaking his head. "The wagon was a mess. It wasn't what any of them wanted it to be. The wheels were on funny. The sides were crooked, and the whole thing looked like it was about to fall apart." "Sorry I ever thought of this," Fozzie sighed. "Having trouble, kids?" asked a grown-up voice. It was Fozzie's dad. "Our wagon's no good," complained Fozzie. "That's too bad," Fozzie's dad said kindly. Maybe you kids are having some cooperation trouble." "Cooperation trouble?" Piggy asked. "That's not so unusual," Fozzie's dad answered. "Let me tell you a story about it." "Once upon a time long ago," Fozzie's dad began, "there was a town where there were 3 carpenters. The 3 of them were good friends, but they just didn't know how to work together. They just didn't know how to cooperate. One day, a terrible giant came to the town. He was huge and mean, and he stole everything he could carry. "Who will save us?" cried the people of the town. "I will," said all 3 carpenters. So they set to work. Each one of them had a different plan. The first carpenter built a tall wooden fence all the way around the town. But the next morning, when the giant arrived, he just laughed and climbed over the fence. The second carpenter built a large wooden cage. When the giant came to town, The next morning, the carpenter dropped the cage over him, but the giant just laughed and broke it to bits. The third carpenter built a very large box. The next morning, he told everyone to lock all their valuable things inside it. But when the giant came to town that day, he just said, "Nice box," and lifted it onto his shoulders and carried it away. Finally, the three carpenters put their heads together. "Not one of us can stop the giant alone," said the first carpenter. "No," said the second one, "but what if we work together?" "And I think I know how," said the third. So the three of them set to work. There was no time to argue. By the next morning, they were ready. That day, when the giant came to town, he found a huge chair plus a table piled high with food and drink. On the table, there was a sign that read, "For the giant." "This is more like it," said the giant. He sat down to eat. Finally, he put his head down and took a nap. Just then, the three carpenters leaped out from their hiding places. The chair was actually built on a wagon. Quickly, the three carpenters pushed the wagon down the hill right into the river. Splash! And so, Fozzie's dad said as he finished the story, the giant floated downriver, never to be seen again. The three carpenters had defeated the giant by cooperating. "Wow," said Fozzie. "It's a good thing they learned how to work together." "That must have been a great wagon," said Kermit. "Wonder if we could build one like it." "Why not?" said Fozzie's dad. "If three carpenters could cooperate then, three carpenters can do it now." "Hey, I'll build the seat," shouted Piggy. "And I'll put on the wheels," said Kermit. "And I'll make the platform," added Fozzie. "I think I'll go cooperate with your mom and help make supper," said Fozzie's dad. So the three friends spent the rest of the afternoon building the biggest, most wonderful wagon ever. Together. Okay, kids. Let's talk about cooperation. Cooperation means working together. Fozzie, Piggy, and Kermit learned a lot about cooperating from the story of the three carpenters. Cooperating isn't always easy, but can make things go a lot smoother. Here are some questions about cooperation for you at home and in the classrooms to think about. Was there ever a time when you needed to cooperate with someone? When was it? Did cooperating make things go easier? Did you ever have trouble cooperating? When? What made it hard? Can you think of ways you need to cooperate every day? Who do you cooperate with? How? And that, boys and girls, ends the story and your lesson on cooperation. Join me again Friday at the same time on the same channel. I'll see you tomorrow.